What if you could stop just interpreting your dreams and start, well, analyzing them? Today, we're diving into a fascinating new framework that treats your dreams not as mysterious stories, but as structured, measurable data. And that gets you thinking, right? Are your dreams just random, chaotic nonsense happening in your head every night? Or what if they're actually a super detailed, symbolic report on your psychological state? That's the big idea we're going to dig into.
Okay, so let's get right into the core idea. The source material for this explainer proposes a pretty radical shift in how we think about dreams. Instead of just looking at the story, we're going to treat every dream as a set of data points that we can actually analyze.
And this is the key concept, which comes from something called the Brain Kinematics Model. The idea is that every single symbol in your dream, every object, every action, represents a specific kind of psychological pressure. You know, a strain. So a dream about a flood isn't just about water, it's a map that's literally showing you where you're feeling overwhelmed. But what does one of these, strain maps actually look like in the wild? To make this really concrete, we're not going to talk in hypotheticals. We are going to apply this whole framework to a real-world case study. So the source material hooks us up with the complete dream log from one person for the entire month of November. This is so cool because it lets us see how their inner world, all those psychological strains, shifted and evolved over 30 days. It's kind of like getting a raw data feed directly from someone's subconscious. Okay, but to read this data, you need a key, right? You need to learn the language it's written in, which the model calls the language of strain. And at the absolute heart of this whole method is a term called the strain signature. Think of it like a tag or a label you put on a dream symbol. So a dream about being lost isn't just lost, it gets a specific signature, like identity strain, which tells you exactly which psychological system is under pressure. This is basically our decoder ring for the whole thing. Now, what's really interesting is how this framework organizes all those pressures. It boils them down into 5 core types. You've got overload, yep, that's your bursting pipes and floods. Then there's identity, think losing a watch or failing an exam. You have social strain, which is all about being left out of a group. But it's not all bad. You've got positive ones like renewal, which shows up as gardens or babies. And finally, trust, for those dreams about spies or just ambiguous, shady situations. All right, we've got the tools, let's put them to work. We're going to apply them to that November dream log and see what kind of story the data tells. You'll see how these signatures build a full-blown emotional narrative over the course of the month. When you actually plot out the strain signatures from all the dreams across the month, this really clear 3-act story just pops out. The dreamer starts out with a ton of overload, then hits this absolute rock bottom, an emotional valley, right in the middle of the month, and then starts this slow process of recovery and putting things back together. So in that first week of November, the dreamer's log is just filled with symbols like this: water leaks, burst pipes, things literally falling apart. The strain signature is, without a doubt, overload. The system is basically screaming that its emotional capacity has been breached. It is on the verge of collapse. And then we hit the lowest point. Around mid-November, the symbols change. They shift from pure overload to something deeper. We see a lost watch, failing an exam, being excluded by colleagues. These are all pointing to identity and social strain. The source material calls this a continuity fracture, a scary-sounding term for a break in the dreamer's sense of who they are and where they belong. But then, things start to turn around. Towards the end of the month, brand new symbols start showing up. Things like renovating old neighborhoods, but most importantly, grapes. In this system, grapes symbolize abundance and a return to coherence. This is a clear renewal signature. Now, it doesn't mean all the problems are magically gone. There are still broken beams in those renovated houses, but it shows the system is actively trying to rebuild. So that's the case study, which is pretty amazing on its own. But the real power of this framework isn't just about analyzing someone else's dreams. It's about giving you a practical, step-by-step algorithm to understand your own. And here's the key difference, the thing that really makes this special. A popular dream dictionary you find online might tell you a snake represents transformation. Fine. But this system helps you build a personal dictionary. It explains why a snake is appearing for you right now, based on the specific pressures, the specific strains in your life. It's all about your personal neural pathways, not some universal one-size-fits-all answer. And this is the engine that makes it all work. It's a 6-step process. and it's super straightforward. First step, you take your raw dream text. Then you pull out the key symbols. Next, you assign those strain signatures we talked about. Step 3 is crucial. You combine all of them to find the net pattern, basically the dominant strain of the dream. From there, you figure out the meaning, and, here's the best part, you come up with concrete real-world actions. And finally, you update your personal dictionary, so the whole system gets smarter and more personalized with every single dream you analyze. So what does that net pattern actually look like? Well, here's a perfect example. After you go through the steps, you might end up with a summary like this: dominant overload plus identity strain, high intensity, and no renewal markers. See, this isn't just a vague feeling anymore. It's a precise diagnosis of your current psychological state, and it's based on the data your own mind gave you. And that precise diagnosis, it leads to some really precise actions. If your net pattern is screaming overload and identity strain, the system suggests things like this. You need to work on setting boundaries. Try doing a worry dump in a journal to get all that pressure out. Reaffirm your real-world contributions to shore up your sense of who you are. It turns dream analysis from just a passive, curious activity into a proactive tool for managing your life. So let's pull back for a second. What's the big picture here? What is the ultimate goal of turning your dreams into data like this? See, this whole framework isn't a one-and-done party trick for figuring out a weird dream you had last night. The real goal is to create a dynamic, ongoing conversation with your own subconscious. Each dream is a message, and this system teaches you how to understand that message and then reply to it with intentional, real-world actions. And this quote from the source material just nails it. Because you're constantly updating your personal dictionary, the system learns. It becomes more and more tuned into your unique, personal, symbolic language. I mean, imagine after a year of this, you'd have an incredibly precise tool for understanding your own psychological weather patterns. Which really leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We spend about a third of our lives asleep, and our brains are obviously doing something really important during that time. So, if you accept the idea that your dreams are a detailed nightly report on your mental and emotional state, a strain map of your inner world, what would you do differently if you finally had the key to read it?